So if you're a fan of gaming content online, you've probably seen this guy's face floating around on YouTube for the last few weeks. This is Jason Thor Hall, also known as Pirate Software, also known as Maldavius Fig Tree. Thanks to his supposed programming knowledge and industry connections, he grew in popularity on YouTube Shorts. However, in other circles, he has a bit of a reputation for being a manipulative, condescending liar. But today's video has nothing to do with his interpersonal drama and everything to do with how he shills for the industry. Hello fellow travelers and welcome to the Hard Light Network. Pirate Software has found himself back in the public eye yet again after the recent upswing in support for the Stop Killing Games initiative, of which he is a massive critic against. Ever since the launch of the initiative back in April of 2024, Pirate Software has been a vocal critic of it on behalf of industry devs, with his two primary talking points being that the initiative itself invites government overreach and regulation into the gaming marketplace, as well as that it threatens indie devs like himself. However, as numerous people have already pointed out, not only did he comment on the initiative prior to reading it, he also misrepresented the point of the initiative as a whole. This has led several people to label him as a shill and an industry plant, accusing him of intentionally trying to damage the movement. And it would seem that all of this effort has backfired spectacularly, as we will find out later on in this video. But before we get into it today, guys, do me a solid and hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the content that I've got coming up for you guys in the future, and also take to the comment section down below with your thoughts on Pirate Software. Also, if you want to support this channel further, there are super thanks and memberships options down below. Be sure to join the channel today for access to exclusive content and perks that you can't get anywhere else. But without any further ado, let's get into today's article. And our reading today comes to us from Psy.com and is entitled, Pirate Software Leaves Off-Brand Games as Stop Killing Games Reaches Goal. Following an unpopular opinion on the initiative, the streamer has decided to distance himself from the company to avoid negative press being attributed to the wrong people. On July 3rd, 2025, YouTuber and streamer Pirate Software, also known as Thor, officially announced that he would be stepping away from off-brand games, following the controversy surrounding the Stop Killing Games movement. The YouTuber noted that his opinion on the initiative has led players to review bomb the company's new releases. To avoid further harm to their reputation, he's terminated the partnership indefinitely. Quote, I am no longer working at off-brand games, he wrote. People were attacking all of the games we were publishing and trying to mass review bomb them. You can dislike the things I say, but this kind of behavior is unhinged. For context, Stop Killing Games is an initiative that prohibits game companies from abruptly and maliciously shutting down games, even after they cross their end-of-life stage. While most people support the movement, Pirate Software took a vocal disliking to it, causing immense backlash that ultimately led to the separation. Still, Thor has doubled down on his thoughts towards the initiative, claiming that abuse across socials can be detrimental to indie studios, but not enough to retract his opinions. And here we have a comment thread on X where Pirate Software follows up on his earlier statement, saying, for those trying to say this is now somehow a lie, the abuse was across socials, people on Discord, Twitter, Reddit, and some reviews on Steam. Indie games are fragile things, and attacks like that hit hard. Overall sentiment was to bash the games and the developers working on them to try to get back at me. Not worth bringing them down for my opinion. Also, stop it, get some help. But we'll come back to this comment specifically a little bit later on. For now, back to the article. Since the announcement, other YouTubers and streamers have already responded to Thor's recent statement on leaving the company. On one hand, personalities like Ludwig support him and call out bad actors, but still agree that Stop Killing Games is the right approach for consumer rights and game preservation. On the other hand, YouTubers like Mischief claimed none of off-brand games' products were review bombed, saying Pirate Software's excuse for leaving the company was something beyond the potential impact to the off-brand projects. And a huge credit to Mischief here, because this comment thread on X shares all the receipts exposing Pirate Software's lie for what it is. Quote, none of off-brand games' titles are getting review bombed. Ludwig and Pirate Software are both blatantly lying to seemingly further slander the quote "stop killing games" movement. Incredibly weird and manipulative behavior from both of them here. For whatever reason, despite his public sentiments expressing support for the Stop Killing Games initiative, Ludwig posted this comment on X. "Such a bummer Rivals 2 is getting any shit for this. Few devs support their gamers as much as the Rivals of Aether team. They still patched the original Rivals game 10 years after release. People are now review bombing the game. Because what? Pirate Software, who has no personal stake in the game, works at Off-Brand Games? Feels wrong." However, here is a graph of the recent reviews for Rivals 2, and it shows clearly that there is no such review bombing happening. He also points out that it's the same story for all of Off-Brand Games' other projects, all of which are sitting at mostly positive reviews right now. It seems like the only game that is actively being review bombed is his own self-published title, Heartbound.
So that was a fucking lie.
Regardless of the reaction and drama to Thor's statement, the public sentiment and momentum is clearly with Stop Killing Games and its supporters. This morning, the petition reached the necessary 1 million votes to receive discussion by the EU. Pirate Software joined Off-Brand Games shortly before the launch of Rivals of Aether 2, a sequel to one of the most successful indie platform fighters in the genre's history. Platform fighters have been heavily dominated by Super Smash Bros., with Brawlhalla thriving in its own separate ecosystem. But Rivals consistently received a place on the main stage at huge events like Genesis and Super Smash Con, now Supernova. In the lead up to the launch, Pirate Software streamed with the devs multiple times and helped bring attention to the game. Now ROA 2 is an actively supported title that sees regular participation from big names like Leffen, Cake Assault, and Void in tournaments. With EVO just around the corner, Rivals is set to be the biggest platformer at the tournament and could become the replacement that brings Smash players back to Vegas. Pirate Software was not a dev on the team, nor actively involved with the ongoing support of the title, but it remains to be seen how his absence will impact ROA and future esports titles published by Off-Brand Games. Which is to say that it won't, because if he didn't have anything to do with developing the game itself, and if he's not necessary to keep the game in a functional state, then I don't see why him leaving the company will have any impact on it whatsoever. And clearly, contrary to his claims, his presence there didn't have any negative effect on it, seeing as how there are only a handful of negative reviews on the title at all. We can only speculate as to the real reason why Pirate Software is no longer with Off-Brand Games. But for me, I don't think it's a leap to say that his past actions have finally caught up to him. Even if you ignore all of his past drama, it's clearly evident that he lied about the supposed review bombing on all of these titles, especially when all of the evidence points to the contrary. And when he was called out for this lie, he walked his statement back and said that it was, quote, just some negative reviews. But he couldn't let go of the victim mentality, calling the criticism that he received in other parts of social media abuse. When it comes to Jason Thor Hall, it seems like the only thing he can actually take responsibility for is other people's accomplishments. But that's going to do it for this video today, guys. Thank you so much to everybody who has watched up to this point. If you like this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the content that I've got coming up for you guys in the future, and also take to the comment section down below with your thoughts on this issue. I, for one, am excited to see that the Stop Killing Games initiative has gained and maintained its momentum despite detractors from the industry like Pirate Software. This dude has clearly adopted the corpo mindset of his industry supporters. His own development project seems to be nothing more than a scheme that he can use to manipulate certain members of his audience into giving him money. But that being said, I've got my own projects to work on, so as always, thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, leave a like, and until next time, love you guys, safe travels.